Hi there, this is Justin Krane, Certified Financial Planner Professional and founder of Krane Financial Solutions. Welcome to Money You Got This. So how can you really live? How? By uniting your business money, your personal money with your life and your business. Word up.
Krane Financial is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only, and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products.
Hey everybody, this is Justin Krane. Welcome to Money You Got This. This show is brought to you by Krane Financial Solutions. I'm Justin Krane. I'm a certified financial planner professional, and I offer investment management services and act as a fractional CFO to business executives and to dentists. I'm psyched you're listening to the show. I want to give you this free report, 3 things multimillionaires do to grow their wealth. Just go to coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. That's coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. Thanks. Today's guest is Dr. Mark Costas. Mark runs a consulting and coaching company called the Dental Success Institute. I think he's still a dentist. Are you still practicing?
Lately I have been, because I lost a couple of associates, so I'm back in there a little bit.
All right, back in the trenches.
Yep.
All right, so he runs Dental Success Institute, which helps dentists to overcome the frustrations of dental practice ownership and to bring their practices to the next level. Mark has done way more. Author, speaker, various programs, just an all-around great guy. And today I want everyone to really listen to how he did it, because that's my question, is like, how did you do all this consistently? So let's first start off with the first thing is you, I think, are a first generation dentist, right? You don't come from a family of dentists, and you had a really bad freak accident with your own teeth and then just evolved from there into a dentist?
Yeah, I'm a first generation a lot of things, but I'm a first generation American for one. I was the first Costas to be born on US soil. And I am a first generation dentist, although my dad, who was an immigrant from the Philippines, was an awesome sibling. He had 2 sisters and a cousin that he actually put all 3 of them through dental school. Wow. So it was always kind of chirping in my ear that you should think about dentistry, but I was never at all interested in dentistry until I ran into a fence playing baseball. My first varsity baseball game, lost all of my top front teeth, broke my jaw, and that sent me on a different trajectory towards being really interested in dentistry, because the team that they assembled to put my face back together was, plastic surgeons, dentists, dental specialists, and that really piqued my interest and got me interested in the field.
So, wow, that's interesting, like hands-on, right? So yeah. Did you start as an associate and then you started your own practice from there?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I don't want to derail your story here, or your line of questioning, but it was not easy for me to get into dental school. That's right. Because I had lots of trouble with learning and comprehension, and I had some teachers that took me under their wing, and they realized that, hey, if this kid, if we just read the tests to this kid, he's actually smart. He just can't read really well. So we figured out early in my life that auditorially, I was fine. I just couldn't comprehend the written word well for some reason. And my sons, all 3 of my sons, suffer from the same kind of learning disability, but I've been able to show them how to kind of overcome that.
That's amazing. Well, that's amazing, because 2 of the 3 of my kids are challenged. We all have challenges, but yeah, it's hard when you learn a certain way and you can't like fit the norm. And I commend you for building off of that, and for all of those people who thought that you wouldn't succeed based on how you learn and understand. I think that's just amazing.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
So I was going to ask you about this later on, but I just want to dive right into it. I think there's a certain element of learning and teaching. I know that you teach dentists, right, how to grow, how to be profitable, and all of that, but different people learn differently. So how are you teaching dentists in a way, like you're teaching them a lot of different things. How are you teaching it to them in a way that they can learn it, comprehend it, and then implement it based on what you went through?
Yeah, great question. You know, there's people have different preferences of learning. People have different abilities of learning. Some people are auditory learners,
No.
some people are kinesthetic learners, some people are visual learners. Some people learn tactically. Like, you know, you hand them something and you explain it to them as they're holding it, and that's how they learn. We try to use all modalities as much as possible. We're in the trenches. We send people actually into dental offices, and our implementers go there. They travel all across the world, and they work with these practices one-on-one in the trenches with their own patient base.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one method of learning. Auditorially, we have coaches. We have what we call black belt coaches that are scattered throughout the country, and they get on the phone with these clients every single month, and they talk through their financial reports. They talk through reports that they get from the implementers that are actually seeing them in the trenches. So that's auditorially. And then we get live, tactically, hands-on, in small groups 3 times per year. We're talking in small groups with black belt coaches and myself and some of my other coaches, and we're actually getting people to stand up in front of groups of people. Here are my biggest challenges. Here's what I want you to hold me accountable to do in the next quarter. So there's lots of different ways that we get the point across, but I think a combination of all of it is, I don't exactly know what it is, but we've created some kind of magic, and it's pretty amazing.
I think that's it. I think a lot of people teach in one way, and it's kind of like, well, all right, if that audience can learn my way on how I teach them, then I'm going to roll with it. But like, you know, you might deal with one dentist who likes to read everything, and then one is like totally overwhelmed with numbers, and you actually have to sit down and show and like write on a piece of paper. Yeah, so I think there's something to be said about how we learn, and then everyone doesn't learn the same way. And if you do it a bunch of different ways, more than one, I think your people obviously have made progress, and they're going to feel good about that.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, we have people right on my own team. We have kind of a book club. There's always a book of the month, and we're always reading it together. Half of us are Audible learners, so we'll put the Audible app on and we'll listen to the book. We'll listen to the author or a narrator narrate the book while we're working out, walking the dog, you know, doing whatever we're doing, multitasking. But the other half of our team here in the office, they have to read, and they highlight, they underline, and they bring those notes to our meetings when we're doing our book clubs. So everybody's different. We offer video, audio, you know, in person, over the phone. Yeah, but
that's
yeah,
great.
every way that we can think of to teach.
Do you ever profile your team or the people in your groups as to how they like to learn so that you can give it to them the way that they can consume it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, we ask them what their preference is. Would you prefer this, you know, auditorially, video, or live one-on-one in person? But we just offer all of it. You know, we have live message boards. We have every different way, and people can pick and choose their favorite. And certain topics, some people like to learn visually and auditorially, and certain topics, the same person would rather read it. When you get really tactical and you're talking about checklists, et cetera, a lot of people don't like to listen to that. They want to see it on the written word on a piece of paper. Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to your path, I'm really interested because this is a challenge for me, and I know it's hard for a lot of people. So you started one practice, right? And then you grew into 6 locations. Is that right?
Yeah, I started off as an associate for a year. I called that my financial residency. So I followed the office manager around, and he showed me how to process insurance claims and how to process money and how to do confirmation calls, all that stuff. She taught me how to do all that stuff just by observation. And then the first year after that, I went out on my own, opened 6 practices in the first 7 years, and then we got up to 15 practices at one point.
That's okay. So 6 practices, 6 locations, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so you're in one of these and you're seeing patients, right? And you're expanding, and then you expand again. How do you do that consistently while keeping your day job, so to speak? Like, is it about systems and teamwork? Is it about being comfortable knowing that you're really not quite sure what's going to happen with each of these locations? How do you just how do you do one thing during your day, right? And then keep building off of that, because business owners struggle with this. They have one agenda, one thing, and they want to do something else, but their energy gets diluted and they're not quite sure where they're going.
Yeah, great, awesome question. And my answer, when you asked me how I was able to do it, I'm just going to say the first 6 practices, my answer is simple: not well. Not well at all. So the first 6 practices were in the first 7 years. And I wasn't just working out of one practice. I was actually touching all of the dental practices. So I was driving from practice to practice to practice. I didn't have an organizational chart. I didn't have an executive team. I didn't have systems in place. They were all doing well, but it was a very staff dependent model, and it was a very owner centric model. So I was touching everything. Everybody was texting me all day long. I was putting out fires all day long. And I had nearly a nervous breakdown after those first 6 practices. So I finally hit my arbitrary financial goals of these goals that I set when I was like 16 years old. I didn't know I was going to be a dentist yet, but I knew I wanted to have this much money in the bank. I wanted to make this much money after taxes. And I hit the arbitrary goal, and I looked around and said, holy crap, I've never been more miserable in my life. And this thing is not working for me. So I put 4 of the 6 practices on the market, and I sold them at a really nice profit. And I decided I was going to take 2 of them, and they were going to be my flagship practices. And we were just going to redo everything. We were going to create that executive team. We were going to create that organizational chart. I was going to learn how to delegate. I was going to eliminate myself from the practices so I wouldn't be such a micromanager. And I just rebuilt everything from scratch. I burned it all to the ground, and I built it up from scratch. And that's when we went really on a tear. And I was able to do that, not practice so much dentistry, and build 3 other really big companies simultaneously while the practice group was growing.
Yeah, I know that really interests me. My first question is, okay, you sold 4, you kept 2. One point that we can just hit, I was going to ask later on, but I think it's important for everyone to hear it, is this relationship between happiness and having a lot of money. We all know that like money doesn't buy happiness, but I'm just curious from your perspective, do you see a lot of dentists that are doing well but just aren't happy, and you're trying to get them to what I call more of a return on life, where they're using their money and setting up their practices to be more congruent with what they really want?
Oh boy, you're going deep, buddy. So yes, of dentists surveyed, we always hear about dentists being surveyed. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend, but of dentists surveyed, it's commonly known that greater than 50% of dentists, if they were able to go back and select their career again, would pick a different career, any career. And the paradox of that is that when you look at the average dentist makes about $197,000 per year. Okay. The average wage earner in the United States makes about $44,000 per year. So the average dentist is making 4 times that of the average wage earner, yet paradoxically is extremely unhappy that they selected dentistry as a profession, right? So there's a lot of things that are going on there. There's a lot of pressures that people don't recognize they're going to be under when they enter the profession. There's a lot of pressures involved with business ownership and trying to be a really meticulous clinician at the same time. Yeah. So there's a lot of pressures that people don't anticipate before they go into dentistry. But yeah, when we look at our coaching group as a whole, if you're going to draw an X on a piece of paper, we handle our entire lives as a composite human being, not just as somebody that's a wage earner, but we look at 4 quadrants. We look at mindfulness, we look at meaning, we look at muscle or movement, and we look at money. Money being intentionally the last quadrant that we focus on. When I was going through my breakdown of 6 practices and wanting to sell everything, my mindfulness quadrant, my gratitude quadrant was a 0 out of 10. My meaning quadrant, which is all of my personal relationships, they were all falling apart. My marriage was falling apart. My kids were mad at me. I was a boss hole at work. I was not a nice person to be around. I was a 0 out of 10 with my meaning quadrant. My muscle quadrant, my movement quadrant, I was a collegiate athlete, but I was so focused on work. I was eating like crap. I wasn't getting sleep. I had ulcers, stressed out of my mind. My cortisol levels were off the charts, as was my blood pressure. So I was a 0 out of 10 in that quadrant as well. but my financial quadrant, it was a 10 out of 10. So if you were going to look at me as a composite human being, 0 out of 10, 0 out of 10, 0 out of 10, and 10 out of 10, I would not call myself a successful person. But us as a society in general, we look at one thing so often, and that is the financial success. And if that person is financially successful, they consider him a successful person.
Yeah.
While I wasn't.
Yeah. You know, in my 20s and 30s, I was like that. And my 40s, I began to see it kind of like you're talking about. And then about a year and a half ago, my father passed away. And that was the big thing for me. I was like, wow, I'm not going to live forever. If something happened to me today, did I do everything I wanted to? You know, can I look back and say, you know, I really lived and I was happy and it wasn't just about money. I'm in the money business, right? And I'm trying to get that balance between satisfaction, purpose, and money. So if you were we'll call it a 10 out of 40 in your example, how did you get those other areas? What did you do? Did you surround yourself with other people? Did you work on yourself? You don't just wake up one day and it's very hard to do that. It's more of an evolving thing, but how did you do that?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it didn't happen overnight. It was an evolution for sure. You know, I hate to use the old tired cliche of, you know, I had to hit rock bottom before I started building myself back up, but I really did. I mean, I hit rock bottom. My marriage was on the rocks, and my kids did not like me. I mean, when you look in the mirror and you're bringing home X number of dollars, and you say, "Hey guys, I did this all for you," and they look at you like you have like a third eye, like, what are you talking about? You're never here. You didn't do any of this for us. You did this for yourself, you know? So this was a very slow process. It started with a lot of personal reflection. I started just slowly, ever so slowly and ever so slightly, getting into journaling and guided meditation, and really just taking a good hard look and seeing, like, what is my purpose for being here?
Yeah.
What am I really doing this for? Is this because I have some deep-seated, like, you know, inferiority complex, or I'm trying to fill some other gap in myself somehow? And so I just, you know, self-reflection and journaling, and I never really got professional, you know, counseling or anything like that. Although I did get a professional relationship coach, which is the next quadrant, and I learned how to speak better to my wife, and try to anticipate, you know, my actions before I did or said anything stupid. I learned how to control that. And I really just learned how to be a nicer person, which is very difficult to do for type A people. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And then I got back in touch with myself, as far as, like, go back to when you were a professional, or a collegiate athlete. What did that feel like? How did you treat your body back then? And I kind of got back in touch with that too. And I really, honestly, Justin, I put the financial stuff aside, and I focused on those three quadrants. And guess what happened to the financial quadrant? It went up as well. It went up as well without even really paying attention to it. When I focused on the other quadrants, everything got better. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm sure there's way more there. Maybe part two, we'll go into more of that, but that's awesome. So going back to when you had those two practices and then you built everything up from there, because I'm going to tie this other part that you did, which is like, when I read that, I still can't, like, how did you do this? So you created a dental assistant school and pitched it to ASU, right?
No. So the way that this went was, so I was trying to figure out a way to monetize my facility, because I owned a bunch of real estate. The practices that I owned, half of them I own the real estate. I still own a bunch of real estate with my practices in it. So I was trying to figure out a way to monetize on my facility after hours and on the weekends. I'm thinking, we're here from 7 o'clock till 5 o'clock, but at 5 o'clock, the facility sits idle. On the weekends, the facility sits idle. How can I monetize this facility when I'm not there? Additionally, I live in a very rural area up here in central Arizona, and we didn't have access to a lot of talents. So I was looking for a way to train my dental assistants, to get paid for it, to find the best dental assistants, and to monetize my facility at the same time. So I wrote a curriculum. For a year, from 9 o'clock at night till 1 o'clock in the morning, I would just write. I wrote a curriculum. I had textbooks all over the place. I created educational aids, and I wrote a curriculum to take somebody that knew nothing about dentistry, like they didn't know the difference between gums and teeth, to a fully functioning dental assistant. And I opened my first dental assisting school in my office after it got accepted through the State Board of Post-Secondary Education. So they gave me the stamp of approval so I could do this anywhere in Arizona. So I had a couple of them in Arizona. But then people started asking me, hey, this is a really cool concept. How do you do this? And then people from different states started contacting me. And I put a team together that if somebody requested to buy my license, not a franchise, but a license, I would sell it to them for a certain amount of money. And my team would get them certified through their State Board of Post-Secondary Education. So when it was all said and done, we ended up with over 206, 207 schools across the country. Wow. And the company basically is still in existence, but we don't have any more territories to sell. So we're pretty much done selling.
So there's a few takeaways. Number one is leverage what you have, like, right? If your real estate and your office space isn't doing anything, then try to leverage that. I also think for you, there had to be some sort of sense of excitement around licensing information rather than having to show up and work.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
I can see you smiling there. And, you know, I'm just going to ask you a random question.
Yeah.
So you're working 9 to 1, and so was this after you figured out how to be more mindful with so how did you just be like, okay, I'm going to work from, 9 to 6. I'm going to come home and really be present with my kids and my wife. I'm going to get them down for bed. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm going to work until, 12 or 1. Did you have that kind of conversation with your wife saying, look, this is something I really want to do. Will you support me? Are you cool with this? How did you deal with that?
You're the first person that's ever put that together. It's a contradiction, right? It's like, wait, hold on a second. You just said you're going to be more present at home, but now you're doing this thing in the middle of the night after hours. It's a great pickup. And here's how it went down. When I was restructuring my life, I said, okay, here are the non-negotiables. Here's what has to happen. I need to spend, a good amount of quality time with my kids. If that means coaching their teams or having family dinner, or uninterrupted time where I don't even have my phone on, it's in a basket somewhere far away from me. That was non-negotiable. Spending a good hour and a half with my wife talking about the day, maybe just reading a book sitting next to one another is actually good quality time.
Sure. Yeah.
After we discuss the day, maybe watching our favorite show for, a few minutes or a sporting event or something. So that was non-negotiable. Every single night that had to happen. We put the kids down at 8 o'clock, and then my wife and I would spend an uninterrupted hour or hour and a half together. After that, she would go and read a book, and I would go and I would write. So that was totally acceptable to her, because this is 10 times more attention than that I had given to the family prior to this. So I defined my non-negotiables. Everything else kind of filled in the cracks. Mm-hmm. So that is kind of a fallacy, and it's something that we have to consider. It doesn't mean you don't have to be you can't be a hustler and you can't work overtime and still be super present at home. If you make sure that you define those non-negotiables, and no matter what happens, those are always top priority, everything else can fill in the cracks, and you can still be a hyper performer and spend a lot of hours.
Yeah, no, but it's quality. It's not quantity. And it's interesting that you say connecting while reading a book. Like, I talk about that a lot with my wife's more of a talker. I'm more of like somewhat of a talker, a connector, but like, yeah, we could watch, like, sometimes we just watch Seinfeld for a half an hour and it's great.
Yeah.
Because it's a complete break from everything.
Exactly.
But I really think that's cool. I was going to ask you about this later on, but while we're on the topic of just your day and your time and all of that, because I know you're really fit, and like, I love your burpee challenges and all the stuff on the road and all that. So how do you deal with your health when you've got limited time, both, then when you're writing this curriculum and even now? Like, how do you bring it all together to make sure that you're good inside?
Yeah, so it's all about the morning routine for me. I have a very, very structured morning routine. I mean, to the minute.
Wow.
And I've been blessed with the fact that I don't need a lot of sleep, even though people tell me that it's shortening my lifespan because I only get 5.5 or 6 hours of sleep per night, but my body automatically literally wakes me up. I don't need an alarm clock, and I'm up at 4:30 or 4:45 every single morning.
Amazing.
Every single morning. But I have my own gym at home, luckily. I'm currently 100% plant-based. I don't eat any animal products at all. So my diet is taken care of because it's not, to me, it's not restrictive. It's just the way that I eat. My wife is the same way. We're 100% plant-based. We were pescatarian for years, and we would have nothing but fish and eggs for our protein. We even eliminated dairy many years ago. But now we took the final step, and for now we're plant-based. So that's pretty easy. And it's, unless you're addicted to French fries and cheeseless pizza, you're going to be pretty healthy on a vegan diet. So that's that. I have a very structured morning routine. I get up. As soon as I get up, I do 3 minutes of guided meditation and journaling. I do my morning pages where I try to get my creative juices flowing. I write 2 or 3 pages, just write whatever comes out of my mind. I just write it down, and that's the journaling part of my morning. And then I go down into the gym and I sweat it out pretty good. Make sure that I'm rehydrated. Then I take a freezing cold shower. I haven't turned the warm water on in my shower since January 1 of 2019 at all. There's a lot of benefits to a freezing cold shower. It increases your metabolism. It helps you convert regular adipose tissue to brown fat, which burns more calories. It increases your testosterone level. It increases your lymph exchange. There's a lot of good things about a cold shower. But I'll tell you one thing. Here's the secret right here, Justin. It's a trigger mechanism, right? So I know that every single day I've committed. If I commit to nothing else, I've committed to a cold shower. And I don't want to go straight from my bed into a freezing cold shower. So I know I have to get a vigorous workout, work a sweat up, and then jump into a freezing cold shower, because it would be miserable if I didn't. And it's cold here. I live in Prescott, Arizona, which is the same elevation as Denver. So this morning it was 17 degrees. I woke up and I worked out in my garage, and I was sweating.
That's crazy.
I ran right into my freezing cold shower. But if I went right into a freezing cold shower when it was 17 degrees out, it would be miserable. So
forget it.
So yeah,
that's amazing.
I try to check off as many of the quadrants as I can in the morning before I head out for the rest of my day.
You know, and also because I've seen this, because I met your son, and I watched the two of you at your event. I think you're modeling for your kids. You're modeling how to be successful in life and business. And because I've got teenagers now, and I think the best way that they learn is by watching what I do rather than me just telling them what to do. Sure. So I think you're doing some great modeling on how to have it all in a way that is balanced.
I appreciate that so much. I do. My son, my 15-year-old now.
Oh, 15.
I think you met Brady. I think
Yeah.
you met my 10-year-old.
Yeah.
But my 15-year-old now has his permit. So he has a Jeep. I bought him a Jeep. So we drive to school every day. He drives me. Then I'm stuck driving his car for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But every single day I pop into his car and I have a motivational YouTube video or a TED Talk or something that I want to get the point across, because 15-year-olds aren't super talkative, and they will use the fewest words possible during a conversation.
Amen.
And although he and I are very close, I can't get much reaction out of him if I try to have a conversation. So if I'm trying to get a point across, I'll find a great TED Talk on it and we'll put it on. And every single day we have that 20-minute drive to school, and it's our magic time, even though we say 10 words to one another. And and I'm feeding his mind with really, really positive things and great examples of people that have overcome adversity, et cetera. So that's just part of our routine now.
That leads me to what, so I have to go back, just marker to myself about how you built these 3 companies, because I think business owners need to learn about that. So I'm going to table that, but I got to come back to it. But I definitely want to talk a little bit about communication, because I see it. I'm on the outside with dentistry. I'm not a dentist. Of course, I go to one, but I see that a lot of dentists struggle in the area of communication. And there's lots of consultants out there that teach that, and, leadership and all of that. So you're in the car with your son and you're playing a YouTube video on something that you could easily tell him in 10 seconds, like have integrity, do the right thing when no one's looking. I mean, you could say that, you're done. But hearing it from you is like your chopped liver. But if you put it on with a YouTube video with some cool music and great editing and some cool guy on a stage, your son, and the guy's got to have 4 million Instagram followers, your son's going to listen to it and take it in, even though it's the same exact thing that you would say. So I think there's this thing about communicating, and I'm sure you see this when you're working with dentists, where like you'll tell the dentist something and then the office manager will be like, I've been telling him that for 2 years.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about communication, in life, but a little bit more in business as well.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe this, that your most important, no matter what kind of business you're in, your most important skill set must be your ability to build trust and rapport quickly. In dentistry, in your field, in any field, if you have the ability to build rapport and have a good conversation and build trust quickly, you will be very, very successful in whatever field you decide to go into. And I totally believe that. Now, dentistry, it's difficult because we are left brainers. We are physicians of the oral cavity. We have been buried in books and studies and case studies and in libraries, not interacting with people our whole lives. And we got into dental school based on a GPA and test scores, not based on our ability to connect with people quickly. But then we get out and we have our own first dental practice, or anybody that has any other type of business, and you fall flat on your face because you realize that you're really good with books and not with people. Right. So we spend days and days training this to our members, and that is, the ability to build rapport and build trust very, very quickly. We spend a lot of time doing it. Being able to get to an emotional connection very, very quickly is very important. And there's lots of little subtle hacks, matching tone and mirroring physiology. All those things are really important. But the bottom line is, if you can find 3 points of commonality, they can start small and then get more and more personal. You will build trust with somebody very, very quickly. We do this role playing all the time with our doctors, where we give them 5 minutes, build rapport in 5 minutes, go. And they're asked to create this bank of questions that are not closed-ended questions, but open-ended questions, like, so, how long have you lived here? What's the favorite place you lived? Why do you like that? Who is your favorite relative? How many kids do you have? What do they like to do? What do you like to do in your time off? So, if you could get 3 areas of commonality, you will build that trust very, very quickly. And once you have that trust, then it's no longer a transactional relationship. Now it's a friendship. And that makes all the difference in the world. And the funny thing is, Justin, that people that don't know how to have a good conversation don't know that they don't know how to have a good conversation.
They're out of touch.
They're out of touch.
Yeah.
They're out of touch. Are you a conversational narcissist? Are you somebody that always has to get the final word? Are you a one-upper? Are you a person that somebody says something and you say, oh, you think that's a big deal? How about this? Are you somebody that never lets anybody get a word in edgewise? Just some people really just don't have that emotional intelligence. And if you could just point out, have them take a look at their style objectively. Here's my communication style. Here's your communication style. Here's what I'm seeing when I communicate with you, and just give it to them objectively so as not to make them defensive. Even if you have to record it and play it back to them and point out, hey, do you notice that the person that you're talking to hasn't said one word in 10 minutes? Those are great tactics.
Awesome, man. All right. So my last question is around, how you built these companies. When we talked about it, we hit it in different areas, but just more like, how did you build these three companies? And how are you continuing to grow? And if someone's in business and they're not a dentist, or maybe they are, and they're looking to achieve some sort of initiative, what can they learn from you in terms of how you've done this successfully in different ways and building different things?
Yeah, you know, when I was trying to get into dental school, I thought, you know what, if they ever give me the keys to the kingdom, if they ever let me in, I'm going to leverage this degree in as many different ways that I can. But in the beginning, I made the mistake of lacking focus. You know, I wanted to build multiple practices, but then I was thinking, yeah, but I also want to build, you know, this other company over here and this other company over here. What I realized is that I had to stick with what I knew, and what I knew at the time was how to build a successful dental practice. When I built that first successful dental practice, and I built on and on and on, even though I crashed and burned personally, I stuck with what I knew in that first part. That gave me the capital and the freedom to go into other areas, but still areas that were still closely related to my field, right? So the dental assisting schools were similar in business structure because I still understood dentistry, but they were different enough that I could use my capital to go into a different direction, focus on that, put people in charge of that business, oversee it, but not be in charge of the day-to-day. Then when we got to the consultancy, it was the same thing. I was incorporating all of my skill set and all of the lessons that I learned through all the mistakes that I had made building up these other two businesses. So each of these businesses kind of stacked on the other.
So if you're focusing on what you know, what did you do, or what do you do when you don't know something?
Yeah, great question. First of all, if somebody asks me the question and I don't know the answer to it, I'm always the first to say, I don't know. I don't know. And I think that I've created a good enough persona. I mean, my wisdom comes from bad decisions and huge mistakes that I've made. So when I don't feel the pressure to say, I don't know that, to not say, I don't know that, because people already know that I'm real. I've just put all of it out there anyway. Yeah. But I surround myself with people that are much smarter than me. It's not that hard to do, but I surround myself with people that are much, much smarter than me, that fill the voids in areas that I can't perform myself. I am not good with technology, and I am in an office full. If I was to open this office door, you'd see 7 to 10 millennials running around here. I work only with millennials because they know technology, they know social media, they know marketing intuitively because they've grown up around it.
Yeah.
So I surround myself with people like that. I also have, right down the hall, I have my full-time controller and my CPA. She knows a lot more about the everyday, accounts payable and accounts receivable and that stuff. So she's in charge of that stuff. I have a person that's in charge of the COO of all my dental practices now, because although I have that skill set, she has a deeper experience. Yeah. She was able to build up a 12 practice group worth $40 million and sell it to a private equity company. So she's even deeper in this world than I am. She can spend 100% of her time focusing on my practices, while I have maybe 10% of my bandwidth to go towards the practices. So
yeah, you're hitting on this point that, I don't know if you know Dan Sullivan's strategic.
Oh, of course, yeah,
capability. I mean, you're really talking about how you're aware of what you're really good at, and you're totally cool bringing in other people who are better at it than you, or more just inclined to do it, and you're okay with that. Yeah. That's great. Keep doing that. That's awesome. So where can people go to learn more information? So first, if you're a dentist, where are people going to go? Where can they go to learn more about you and work with you?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm on all the socials, Dental Success Institute. I have a Facebook group, a free Facebook group. Just look us up on Facebook. There's a page and a group. I would sign up for the group. You can catch my podcast, the Dentalpreneur Podcast, which is the #1 business dental podcast out there right now. We have about 100,000 downloads a month in 150 countries. So check out the podcast. Catch out Dental Success Institute on Instagram, or you can go to our website, truedentalsuccess.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. It was great to have you.
Thanks, Justin. It was my pleasure.
Have a question? Want to get in touch with us? Need some help and advice with your finances? Just go to coolmoneyshow.com and reach out to us. That's coolmoneyshow.com.
Krane Financial Solutions is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products. No investment decision should be made based solely on any information provided herein. We do not provide legal, accounting, or tax services. We recommend that all investors seek out the services of competent professionals in any of the aforementioned areas. Certain information provided has been obtained from third-party sources that we believe reliable. However, it's not been independently verified and is not guaranteed.